In the frozen heart of Icewind Dale, where Auril the Frost Maiden's eternal winter has shrouded the land in an endless twilight, a band of unlikely heroes fights to carve light from the ice. It is 1490 DR, and the 10 towns huddle against jagged peaks and frozen lakes, their people enduring a 2-year rime that has silenced the sun and chilled their souls. Amidst blizzards and beasts, whispers of ancient evils stir beneath their glaciers. This is their tale, a saga of survival, loss, and unyielding resolve. Our story begins with Crix, the goblin rogue, a nimble survivor with green skin and reddish freckles. Her yellow eyes as sharp as daggers, born in the village near the spine of the world amidst a family of goblins. She and her brother had to flee during an assault by a group of Goliaths. Her kin slaughtered, and the rest of them, her and her brother, and maybe some others escaping. Leaving her to turn to a life of crime, Crix eventually stole from the wrong people. Lord's Alliance wizards got her caught up in Revel's End prison. But she escapes. Cunning and unyielding, she has vowed to protect her brother and claim revenge. Next to her, Cargill, the goblin sorcerer, bald and scrappy, his dark green skin rigid like ancient bark, topped by a dead chicken as his wizard's hat. Gifted with wild magic that has set him apart within his clan, he survived that same massacre, emulating wizards to harness his power. Apprenticed to Ares under Mistra's watchful eye, Cargill dreams of ending the rhyme's hardships and proving his strength to his sister, fearing only solitude and failure. Joining them is Ares, the human wizard. A sharp-minded seeker from Brynshander's streets, he delved a trap-filled cave to seize a powerful scroll, impressing the Arcane Brotherhood enough to join their ranks. Mentored in arcane secrets, he ventured north to find a lost ally, Vaelish Gaunt, his spells a shield against the Dale's perils. With them, Eli Barkslid, the forest gnome druid. Young and enigmatic, with a shock of white hair, revived on the North Sea ice floe by a wandering druid named Tim. Eli wandered the Lonely woods, honing his power under Maliki and Sylvanus' guidance. Haunted by forgotten nightmares and a pull towards unknown truths, he guarded nature's balance, his essence enduring even beyond the veil. 2 others walked with them briefly, Drax the dwarf, who returned to his kin in the mountains to flee deeper cold, and Donegal Kane, who, a human fighter, eventually fled after learning that he would be defying a god. The party of 6 set to Brynshander and the Northlook to receive a quest from one Hlyn Trollbane, a dwarf who believes that she has the potential answers to stopping the rime. There have been sacrifices amidst the 10 towns, and some of them have been being fulfilled by an individual's hands, a murderer. Hlyn believes that Sefik Caltro has been killing those escaping the sacrifice through means of nobility and wealth. And she believes that this could be the cause of Auril's continual frozen mist. But the party takes the quests, the potential for 100 gold, and another quest by a Professor Danica Greysteel, an elf who seeks to study the Chwinga nature spirits of these lands. Giving them a lantern of elemental seeking, they head west towards Targos, stopping at a caravan stop and slaying Sefik after Crix finds her way amidst their ranks and lures him into the cold woods. Without many answers, they simply find the traveling caravan to actually be a group of bounty hunters. And, not breaking any laws, they leave the rest of them be. Heading towards Targos, they see signs of Zentrum amidst their ranks, but Leaving the thieves' cant and the symbols alone, they start to move towards the inn, only to be interrupted by a dog named Boy. A stray dog led them to a desperate tale. Climbers lost in Calvin's cairn. With Boy as a guide, they cut through the Dwarven Valley, only to stir an ancient terror. A Veriturus, a blind white dragon, her dead rider slumped on her back. Her roar devoured their mounts, her wings a storm of snow. Yet they escaped her wrath alive. Losing their mounts and much else in that random encounter, they eventually made it to Calvin's cairn. There they had to battle quite a few perils to make it up the mountain. An avalanche, a group of crag cats that tried to pounce on them. Here they were able to tame one of the crag cats, and a group of goats that didn't mean them any harm, but did cause them a bit of trouble on the mountain. They made it to the top to meet those adventurers that Garrett was trying to escort. Keothi, the only survivor, a Goliath that had been trying to find his way towards a werebear spirit. Unfortunately, he had failed and only found a Yeti cave. Then, after a small baby Yeti was found, the father and mother attacked. A perilous battle at the top of the mountain as the party killed the Yetis and threw the baby off the cliffs, gaining the name the Tyke Tossers. The party left Calvin's cairn victorious, and with the surviving Garrett and Keothi. They made their way first to Tourmaline, dealt with a few issues with their mine, liberated a few kobolds, killed a Grell, an aberration from the Underdark, and made their way back to Targos and eventually Brynchander, turning those quests in and finding out about a burning of a wizard, an arcane brotherhood wizard. Under Ares' request, they quickly fled to East Haven, and this was Ares' eventual peril. Here, a group of invisible dwarves had been causing the town a bit of trouble. These Duergar, now sheltered from the sun because of this constant rime and blizzard, were able to surface and caused quite a few issues, taking up in the docks and lurking the streets in the nights. The party found them in the dock ward and caused a small encounter while the party was separated, the other half in the town hall, leading to Ares' collapse and eventual murder on the docks. The party continued, though, taking on the quests of East Haven, finding some lost fishermen leading to a cave of a hag. There they had to battle harpies, a frost giant skeleton, and the hag herself, before claiming a cauldron of plenty, which they were able to sell to the town, and root out another Zentrum threat. Thieves' cant that Crix was able to pick up on, that their town clerk was going to send letter to Targos. The letter telling them about this cauldron and the potential wealth within the city. They were able to root that potential town hall cap request out before it ever happened. Now, the town captain, Captain Imdra, has venerated them, and East Haven sees them as heroes. They headed to Goodmead, where there they had met with the town speaker who didn't want to become the new speaker, and another Zentrum threat, a pawn put in by Targos that wanted to become the new town speaker. They killed that one, and they denied the other one her potential speakerhood, and left the town in a bit of turmoil. But they left, after killing and fulfilling that quest at least, where they had found some giants that were causing and stealing the meat and causing a bit of issue in the nearby woods. There they eventually made their way north to Caer Dineval, and that is where they found a cult following the devil god Levistus, and being led by Averis, a white tiefling that was a member of the Arcane Brotherhood. There, the party started to question why so many Arcane Brotherhood were everywhere, and they had finally rooted out through a new ally who had joined during East Haven, Lucian, a wizard that had mentored Ares and followed in the following sessions. Lucian had informed them that the Arcane Brotherhood is here seeking magics of Netheril, the fallen city, ancient and lost to time. Their magics are, well, if found, are potentially valuable or invaluable items, artifacts of an ancient civilization. But the party continued on, leaving this cult because Avarice had kind of kicked their ass, but left them alive. They had failed that quest. Moving on to Caer Cenig, where they were quested to find another unseen threat, more Duergar. Here, the Duergar were causing torment throughout the town and stealing things. They followed their trail to Calvin's Cairn once again. There they found a hideout of Duergar. They were able to root them out, and they were able to find undead thralls filled with this strange, myconid-like undead situation that they weren't sure how they were controlling these thralls, only that there were these weird spore-like fungi growing on them. The party was curious of it, but never quite got answers, and they did find that they were collecting these black shard fragments. Shardling. They continued back towards Caer Cenig to report in their findings, only to be ambushed by orc raiders. Here we had a total party wipe, leaving many of them unconscious in the snow. Many bled out and died. Ares fled on the back of an axe beak, and the rest, Eli and the goblins, bled out and died. All of their items were stolen. All of their loot was taken. The mounts were taken for food. Even their pet dog was taken. This was a moment of somber remembrance that the Dales are unforgiving. But eventually, they made their way, the two goblins, surviving their death-saving throws and their con saves against the blizzard in the tundra, walking on foot back to Caer Cenig. Crix and Cargill survived. Crix had to be carried unconscious for the first few hours before they eventually made it into town. There, they were able to find what is a few new allies. Uthar, a barbarian Goliath, harboring the spirit of Eli, was reborn and had returned to find the party. Leroy, a nearby guard, was assigned after hearing of their heralding quest, was assigned to help the party. And in a nearby tavern, they picked up the ally, Beauregard, a noble gunslinger, who fled into Icewind Dale to escape the past. With those new allies, the two goblins continued their quest. The Tyke Tossers, as they were known. Heading south, they made their way first to Goodmead, where they had met. I guess I'll add the whole party at this point. He had fled, and he had fled. These two died later on. Where they had met Lucian, still alive, after he had fled back to Goodmead and had become the town speaker. In the party's absence, he saw an opening to retire. Now, the five of them continue on. With a potential ally in Lucian, they left him alive. They continued to Dugan's Hole, where they wanted to avoid Dugan's Hole altogether. Its reputation for inbreeding and such a small town served them no interest, but they were trying to make their way south towards the shooting star rumor that they had heard. Unfortunately, they never made it there, because they were interrupted by a pack of wolves. These wolves lured them out of Dugan's Hole and into the woods, promising that there was a potential treasure trove in their leader's abode, and that they were, unfortunately, just his servants. The party seemed to wanted to liberate these wolves and headed to this area, this abode of this frost giant ruler. They found the frost giant already slain, but his mammoth, awakened and angered, attacked them on arrival. They killed the mammoth and found some kobold allies, finding out that they were small kobolds under the control of one Velinhar Pell, another member of the Arcane Brotherhood. Velen, nowhere to be seen, seemed to have been the cause of the frost giant's slaughter. The party liberated those kobolds and the dire wolves and went back to Dugan's Hole and eventually headed back to Brinchander. There they restocked and were found to be somewhat seen as heroes amidst the 10 towns. They heard quite a few rumors. This is where they gained pretty much every rumor that they could, and they started to choose which ones mattered. The first, a haunted cabin, picked up their interest. They had learned from a nearby gnome, follower of Lathander, and an ally to an inventor that had headed to a cabin, known as the Black Cabin, just north of Lonelywood, had a potential way of stopping the winters, a device that would end the winters forever. They headed north to investigate, only to find that this inventor, Marcadius, had already perished. Finding that an explosion caused his death, and unfortunately that same explosion ended Cargill in a similar death. Leroy fell through some weak floorboards, and the two of them died, leaving just the three to solve this mystery. Putting together that the Summer Star, this artifact, had to be recalibrated and perfected with an additional ring, they were able to collect the items they need and craft this Summer Star, creating a radius of a 50-mile summer effect. This gave them not only the blessing of Lathander as the sun shined upon them, but it also revived their fallen allies and gave them a god's blessing. Each morning they would wake up with temporary health. Now, with their allies revived and returned to their side, the five continued on to Lonely Wood. Here, Beauregard had met with some nearby allies, a dwarf blacksmith that he had given one of his guns to repair, and has now been repaired. That dwarf has now joined him and is heading to Brinchander to join his bastion. Uthar stumbled upon Eli's old cabin, and many of Eli's memories flooded back. The rest of the party had met with the town speaker and had learned of the White Moose, a nearby threat, an awakened moose from a hunting issue that none of the hunters seem to be able to track down. And so the party takes on that quest to find this White Moose, only to find that the nearby woods have an elven tomb. In this tomb, they find a druid, a frost druid, has been awakening animals in the hopes of killing 10-towners. They have to battle some of those animals and the White Moose, as well as the frost druid herself. After killing them and finding a few artifacts, they also awaken an old mummy, a sun elf that is far beyond them as far as knowledge and time, but much of her brain has withered and her intelligence is faltering. But in her awakened spirit, she has joined the party. Sanar, the sun elf mummy, and an awakened bush are now the party's allies. They've also stumbled upon a random encounter where they found a dog, a wolf, named Montague that Tim the Druid had sent to ally with them. And so their party now consists of 3 pets: Montague, an awakened bush, and Sanar, the sun elf mummy. The rest of their pets they lost on those different encounters, especially the orc raiders, killed most of them, Crabcat included. There's been a lot of loss in this adventure. Finally, and this is now towards the latter sessions, the party has continued on to a nearby rumor, heading back to Brinchander, gathering their allies and starting their bastions within the city. They were been given a noble estate and some grounds to craft their bastions, and at level 5 they have each began their own individual bastions in one large mansion. Cargill crafted some tunnels underneath and made an arcane study. Crix has made a garden and a storehouse that she eventually plans to turn into some thievery base. Uthar has started a workshop, and Beauregard similarly has his own workshop and shooting range. Leroy has yet to start his, though likely a smithy and barracks of some sort. The rest of them head to the nearby rumor down the 10 trail of the shooting star that they wanted to head to quite a while ago. And that is where we left off as the party arrived at Ide Ascent. Here they have found, they also have a Yeti baby that they had found. They named him Yeet, appropriately. This Yeti baby was found just abandoned in the snow. It was one of the random encounters, and it's what they got. So they got a baby Yeti, and he is abandoned. They took him in, and they named him Yeet, since they're the type tossers. They have yet to actually hurt him, though. That being said, we left off at Ide Ascent, this fallen nautiloid that throughout the sessions, Cargill's wild magic surges have sent him to the Astral Sea, where he had constantly seen this nautiloid and interacted with these ceramorphs, these gnome ceramorphs, quite a few times, but now he actually meets them in the flesh. First, they battle some of their pets, a boulette and some carrion crawlers that crawled their way out of the crash that they had let go because they had run out of food supplies. But they met the gnome ceramorphs, first their kids, these squidlings, and then the ceramorphs themselves, the parrots, who were playing with some laser rifles and some laser ancient spelljammer technology that the party was unaware of until now. But they have seen allies in these ceramorphs instead of enemies, and they have accepted a quest to help them. The ceramorphs need something called a mind crystal, and the party knows where one is. You see, the goblins had one before they had died. They got one back in Tourmaline Mines, and they lost it to the Orc Raiders. And so they have been quested by these ceramorphs to find that mind crystal and return it to them so they can power their nautiloid and escape this place once again. To that end, the party has left off on a quest and is still in this nautiloid, and that is where we'll pick up next session. Thank you all for joining this recap, and I hope you will join us live next session as we join the party Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm sorry, that's the wrong time zone. Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern for Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden, Session 23. Chapter 2, The Icewind Dales. I'll see you all then.